Our next speaker is Nzubechukwu Ezudo. He's the lead for Super Team Nigeria. Zubi has helped Super Team Nigeria community reach a community GDP of $547,000 in under 2 years. Super Team Nigeria is currently spread in 30 of the 36 states. He'll be speaking on internet capital market ready apps, African use case. Please a round of applause for Nzubechukwu Ezudo.
Yeah. So how's everybody doing today? Good, 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 good. I mean, I know it's a tad late already, so I'll try and keep it a little bit lively. So basically, what I'm going to be talking about today is internet capital market ready apps. It's a mouthful, I know. So fundable apps. How can you create fundable apps in the new environments that we have currently? So the goal of the internet capital market era of how we look at apps on Solana now is to enable founders build and list products directly on the internet for investment and growth. Now, it looks so simple, but it truly isn't because the normal track is you create your app, you look for investors, you look for big exchanges to kind of list. But with the new world that we have now, there's a way to look at this apps, right? And one of the big problems currently in investing is that, well, normally is that investors fundamentally they hate losses. I mean, nobody likes them, right? Also, you don't want to be carrying a bag. So despite all the problems you can actually call for investors, these two are the ones that have a very emotional undertone to it, right? And while they're working on this too, the meta life cycles are also getting shorter. So how many people here saw the quick rise of AI and just it thinned out again? And they're like, oh, pivot back to this. Oh, I see people in the crowd. So imagine that as an investor, you are right? I mean, you call the right coin, you call the right project, but now you have to basically move way faster. It's a problem, right? So for these investors, they need to look at your app not only from how good is it going to be, but how will the life cycle of that meta even be in the first place, right? So what we truly need is a simple way to quickly vet apps with this new reality. Take, for example, we all saw DeepSeek come out and we saw what that did to the stock market, right? I mean, before that, nobody thought it was going to happen, but we saw how many billions just got shipped out of the market. So these are new realities that have to come in. And as founders, you have to kind of build for these realities now too, right? So how do we now look at apps and view it through this internet capital market era, right? Thankfully, Akshay basically kind of at the beginning of the year gave us the FAT protocol engineering model, right? And it's basically looking at things through the founder lens, the app layer, and tokens, right? But we also took that and expanded it and added more parameters to it. So we're trying to make it turn it into like a system now. And depending on the track that you're looking at, on the market you're looking at, you can add parameters that actually make sense for your industry when you're building your product, but also when you're investing in it. So for founders, you want to figure out if this founder has experience in this field. And we can basically turn all these things into like numbers and systems, right? Then for apps, you need to figure out what the life cycle of that app is, of the market that they're playing in is. But also market size. I mean, the way we normally look at market size is, oh, we look at this is the industry and this is all this. It's not really entirely true with the way how fast the market is going. You want to look at the big players in that space and say to yourself, well, how much market share can we even take away from these people, right? Then vertical magnets. The more you can attract multiple verticals in that value chain, the more you can actually create something that is truly pulling at the base, right? Then tokens, well, you need, I mean, people have their ideas about tokens. You don't just slam tokens into anything. You need to ask yourself, do I have network effects in my app? Do I understand incentives and tokenomics, right? but also I have to lead with revenue first. Because if I lead with revenue, then there's at least something to split with your community. There's something to split with your value chain nodes, right? And we basically took all that and we converted it into like a card. So basically like an ICM ready card, right? And we can use that to kind of appraise some of the companies when they come in. But also as a founder, you also want to use that to weigh yourself and say, okay, fine, this is my grade, this is my grade, this is how I can actually get better, right? It's still a work in progress. So we've been using this mindset, like what we're building in Nigeria and Africa, we're mostly from Nigeria now, and we started finding fundable apps in different places. So things like you would think that betting on payment rails should work, right, in Africa, well, in Nigeria. So, but what we started noticing is that vertical checkouts are probably the best way you want to go. So you might have payments as a Rails, but a vertical checkout that handles payments for building materials, payments for auto industry, payments for this, probably gives you way more bite. So vertical checkout, we have a company, Riba Finance. He was on stage earlier, right? They've processed 4.1 million, and they basically built vertical checkout. So they're trying to solve collection and restocking for global trade. So normally, if you position like, oh, I'm just doing Rails, it's not really going to kind of fly. But if you're doing commercial, if you're doing global trade, now there are like 4 or 5 different verticals that can actually plug into that and basically run with that and go sell it, right? Then Patch Cash probably is in the crowd too. Very great developer, won a hackathon, then got drained. I mean, if anybody should know, it's him, but there's still a problem. And he said, I have to kind of find a dummy-proof way of doing off-ramping, right? Because the point is, in Nigeria, for example, we can say all we want to say. People still need to do these things without actually having to think too much, right? So credit score, TriQ, they're going to be speaking later. And basically what they found out was that hardware wasn't just for deepin, you need to do more than hardware. So they're doing that, they are using their trackers to now generate credit scores for auto lending, right? Then we have real world tracking, Asset Square, right? We have simplified on-chain savings. So Nextify, basically what they figured out was savings and investment are not 2 different products, it's the same product. It's just how much yield do you give back to the customer, and they're building around this now. Then social vetted lending, basically they're using social vetting as a better call for SME lending as opposed to collateral lending, right? So game studios, well, now you can use AI to generate a whole lot of things very fast. So betting on game titles might not necessarily be the way to go. It's probably, let's bet on game studios and figure out almost like an ETF of some sort, right? And loyalty as a service, building loyalty into the core, right? Then capital formation. So I want to spend a little bit more time in this. Milestone-based funding rounds, which is, as a project, you might want to put up your project and say, fine, as an investor, I'm going to do this, but fund me after every milestone, right? That way, it's a soft landing for both the investor, but also for the founder. So this way, it becomes, it's a little bit more transparent, right? Because in the end, if you're having issues with funding in the normal rounds, you should be able to kind of have this, how would I put it? As a soft landing for you to kind of raise money. And this is almost like a de-risk of some sort. So the unique insight is basically that this viewpoint basically changes how we search for fundable apps, but also what gets funded, right? And as we grow, as we develop, we're going to be putting out a little bit more, a little bit more information on how we've grown the rating card, right? And we see what we learn from it. So that's it. Thank you.